for Wicked for Good, this a second act that's coming out this year, they're no longer in Shiz anymore. So Elphaba and Glinda have gone through this coming of age. How did you communicate that through clothing, that like their adolescence has come to an end, they are now two women, and how does that show up in like some of their clothing choices?
Well, I was dribbling in clues, specific to Elphaba, let's say, as we move through their time at Shiz, all the way up to when they go to meet the wizard. And for Elphaba, it was creating this austerity in her all-black looks that have they lean towards a Victorian, almost folk-like quality in the, like you were talking about the vests or the little bodices, the bone bodices that then there's a skirt that goes along with it.
Even the boots that Cynthia talked about last time she was here.
Yeah.
And they change length.
And they change height. The idea of pinafores, like we see her when she's a little girl, and then when she is a young woman, she's still in a pinafore, the pinafore that buttons all the way up. Yep. It's got straps, and then she's got a blouse. And then we go to this place where she's already been introduced to the world of uniform. She's created her own uniform in a very austere kind of, a beautiful. I love the tailoring on her suit. It's like a Dior suit, but it's her uniform. And then from there, we see her shed the jacket. She goes into more of a vest and skirt look. And then that transforms into a silhouette that includes trousers. And as soon as we go to that place of trousers, a blouse, a vest, she is owning her own power. She's owning her own fashion sensibility. It is influenced and defined by who she's surrounded by. So you see those half kilts that the other students are wearing. You see trousers and kilts being worn together. Yep. It's just that she's translating that still in her world of black and dark gray.
Because black can represent darkness and all these things that has been projected onto her as like the Wicked Witch. But when you're using that as a choice in those early days in her adolescence, it's not being communicated as a sinister thing. Is it to communicate that she doesn't come from much? Or is it to communicate she's a loner?
She's in black because she's in mourning for her mother.
Oh,
she lost her mother when she was a little child, and she has her sister Nessa Rose, who's wheelchair bound, but and Nessa Rose becomes the one that's coddled, and Nessa Rose is the one that's dressed in white, and Nessa Rose, for all of except for her uniform, for all of the first Wicked, she's seen in creams and taupes and white. I mean, to retain that idea of innocence. And in contrast, her sister is in black, but it goes from being a clothing of mourning into being armor, that austerity that gives her presence, that makes her different, that allows her to take up space because she's different from everyone else. I'm always thinking about the story and who she's going to become, which is the Wicked Witch of the West, or a representation of that as we understand it as an icon from The Wizard of Oz. We had conversations about this. Just like, when I was, those early conversations with John, and we were trying to figure out, okay, so is she always going to be in black? Or, is that the best choice? Is that the smartest choice? She didn't have a father that loved her and gave her, that compensated for that lack, the lack of having a mother, the lack of, or the fact that she was different because she's got this magic power. Like there was nothing, and the fact, green skin alone, there's nobody that was in there saying, no, really, you are okay as you are. So of course you're going to gravitate to something that makes you feel different, because there's no way of assimilating into your culture, or you're not going to blend in, so you maximize it and make it different. And it speaks of students today. It's interesting, that kind of goth culture made, teenagers feel interesting. And
guarded.
And guarded at the same time. Yeah.
Kind of like, I'm going to make sure that I'm as unattractive to you first so that you maybe don't approach me. And that way I don't feel rejected because I kind of like rejected myself already. It's funny that you mentioned that one of your earliest references is the Cinderella moment turning from like rags to riches because I think you guys nailed that moment in the movie. Do you know what I'm referring to? You know what moment I'm referring to?
Which one? No, you tell me.
I mean, I just am saying this as a viewer. I started weeping when I watched the movie. I mean, I weeped every time I've seen it. The moment to me of that Cinderella moment is Defying Gravity, with her at the top. Glinda gives her the hat because we've already seen that iconography for 20 years, right?
Yeah.
And you're wondering when it's going to happen. Is it going to happen in this movie? Is it going to happen in the second one? You don't even know when it's coming. And all of a sudden, when you see her profile in the shadow of the window, it was the first time you realize, oh, we're here. Like, this is wicked, you know? And it was done in such a subtle way without beating you over the head with it. And I just started sobbing when I saw it because, like many people, it's in your body. The music and the story is already in your body.
And it's interesting that it's actually on the character you don't expect that it's going to be on. I mean, it is... Because, for Glinda, everything is given to her. Everything, she is gifted the bubble. It's like it's expected that she's going to be the beautiful one. And that defined how I designed Cynthia, or, Elphaba / Cynthia's whole track, is that I wanted to make sure that Elphaba was always as beautiful and interesting as Glinda. And, even though she was dressed in black in an austere way, it was very conscious what her choices were. The fit of all of her clothing, the silhouette is for me, it's perfect. It's like, it's so precise. And I think that is Elphaba. That's how she presents. That's how she identifies.
She's measured.
Exactly. I bet Elphaba is a Virgo. That's like, which is what I think that she because she stays very quiet, but she's very intentional about, how she's going to walk through life. To your point, that moment where she realizes her power she puts on the hat and she's already transformed that into a power object. She turned it around at the Ozdas ball where, everybody has created it as a joke, and she turns it into something that gives her some kind of power. It takes up space in a very clever way. But then when, she's able to call the broom to her, she has the cape on, even what I, decided to make the cape out of, it was so that it would move the way that it does in the air, even though that moment is slightly slowed down so you could see the energy of what's happening with the fabric. So when she pulls it back and she turns around and you see her silhouette, it's so, yes, indeed, like you said, yes, indeed, this is the moment when she has arrived. And that's what is so exciting about designing. That's exciting about designing musicals, because you don't have the opportunity to orchestrate something that's also underscored by beautiful music that then is going to go into a song that is expressive in a way that you could never do it without singing it. I think that is what makes my work meaningful, hopefully, is that connection to the medium.
What was the fabric of the cape?
It's a silk velvet. Well, it's a silk velvet that has a certain amount of drape. So, silk velvet dresses like bias dresses from the 1930s, and it has this beautiful just drape. But it has a weight that gives you presence. It's grounded, but then it also has depth, and it's luscious, as a fabric. But then I was using it to continue the idea of texture and pattern, and we devoid a pattern that's kind of like bark, or it was like it's like undulating waves. which just accentuated, what we were doing, and then where we were going to go for Wicked for Good as well.